Alright guys, I finally got my attachment plate in for my mini skid. This is probably the 20th or more attachment plate I've bought separately to put on our attachments. Because what we're doing now is putting on mini skid or Toro Dingo or ditch, whatever you want to call it, mini skid plates, attachment plates for full-size Bobcat attachments. Because the newer mini skids have counterweights, and the light duty buckets um, are a lot more productive than a tiny bucket. So we have already done this once, and we're going to do it again. The reason we're redoing it is because the last attachment plate we welded on, the corners weren't welded, and now it's having a tendency to break and split in the corners. We've welded them and they keep re-splitting, so we decided to go ahead and just do a solid plate. So we're going to see if that fixes the problem. Pretty well packaged, even though it's not going to break. We'll go ahead and turn this down so you can see what we're talking about. They really package these well. This is probably something you probably don't need to package. This will do more damage to the things around it. This is probably the least likely thing to break when you're shipping. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Put all my boxes away. All right. All my package material. And some nice styrofoam blocks. This is usually called, like if you look it up, sometimes it's under Toro Dingo attachment, because they were kind of like the first ones to make a mini attachment. This one is folded over and welded. Okay. A lot of these have a spot here, there's no weld, so they have a tendency to split. And then once they split and re-weld them, they have a tendency to break easier. Also, too, they're reinforced where the pins go through, which is nice. This one's a little more expensive, I think, than some other ones. You can find cheaper ones, but this one's reinforced and welded. Also, too, since we're using a lot of pressure on these, we're probably going to take something and reinforce these corners and do a re-weld, because all your pressure is on the corners. Also, too, a lot of times what you can do is butt this up against, if you're re-welding this, sometimes you can butt this up against the bottom plate of the other attachment, so it has basically twice as the strength or more. But problem with that is sometimes when you do that, the bucket won't go all the way to the ground, so you'll have a little bit of gap and you won't be able to, the bucket won't go past the machine, so it's harder to smooth out. So what we have done in the past is put this bottom plate all the way to the bottom, so you have more support on the bottom than you do the top, and then we just put angle or something across the top, or we gusset the top to have more strength. Also, too, on the bottom of our bucket, we're getting splits. It's pulling away from the corners in the middle, because we're having a tendency when we pull out, there's no reinforcement on the plate, because right now we have it up to the top. If you put it all the way to the bottom, you'll have reinforcement on the bottom, and you won't have to reinforce it as much. But we do have another idea where we're going to double plate it on the back and in the front, so that way there's double thickness. Because if you're using a machine like ours, you're kind of overusing it, you're lifting up more weight than you should, you have counterweights, you're picking up logs bigger than the machine can lift, Without a counterweight, you're using 2 and 3 guys with a grapple bucket and picking up over 1,000, maybe 1,500 pounds or more, and teetering it with it. You're going to have a tendency for this to pull away from the other attachment plate. So you want to weld it solid all the way around. You want to gusset it wherever you can. You want to reinforce the corners. You want to reinforce basically the top and the bottom as much as possible. You can even gusset the sides. Any way you can reinforce it without adding too much weight is a great idea. So again, a lot of people they don't use their big attachments. They sell them or give them away. If they're light duty and they don't weigh a lot, especially buckets without the grapple, you can utilize those big buckets on a smaller machine, and it really increases your productivity. So it's kind of like having a Bobcat, but half the weight and able. Another thing we do is the big buckets, we'll put them in the front of our trailer, disconnect them, and then we can still have our mini skid and our stump grinder in the middle, and they still fit if we put the bucket all the way up front. So there's a few tricks we found out that really help us out. We also buy these too that have attachment for the hitch, like a ball or a Reese hitch attachment. If you use those, you can really pick up a lot more weight, and you can move heavier trailer and heavier equipment with those. So those are a little bit more expensive than these because they have a couple more welds and an attachment plate to them. But they're a lot, I think, less expensive than doing it yourself by the time you buy the material. So we go ahead and buy those, and we haven't had any failures yet on those. So probably be a best idea just to go ahead and buy those with the hitch attachment on them. So anyway, I'll leave a link in the description if you're interested, but this is one of the better, stronger designs we have felt. We're going to try this one out and see how it holds up, but of course we're going to reinforce it as well and make it last. So mount this on the bottom, and you'll have a lot more flexibility spreading dirt. If you attach it on top, you'll always have the reinforcement on top, and then you'll just have to reinforce the bottom. All right, guys, see you on the next one.